Admiral James Walker stood at the massive window of Earth's orbital command station, his weathered hands clasped tightly behind his back. His gray eyes reflected the dancing lights of alien ships that now surrounded Earth like a swarm of deadly fireflies. Each passing moment brought more of them, their sleek hulls gleaming under the distant sunlight. "How many now?" he asked, his voice steady despite the growing tension in his shoulders. 712 Council vessels, sir," replied Lieutenant Tom Harris from his monitoring station. "They're still coming through the jump points." Walker nodded slowly, watching as another group of ships emerged from the shimmering portals at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Galactic Council had planned this well, too well. They had spent years gaining humanity's trust, sharing some of their technology, engaging in trade, all while studying Earth's defenses and capabilities. The large display screen behind them suddenly lit up with an incoming transmission. The face that appeared belonged to High Counselor Rhett, a tall, blue-skinned being whose 6 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern. "Admiral Walker." The alien's voice echoed through the command center. "The Council's vote has been concluded. Earth is hereby placed under quarantine, effective immediately. Any attempt to breach the blockade will be met with lethal force." Walker's jaw tightened. "On what grounds?" "Earth has followed every regulation, signed every treaty. Your species' aggressive tendencies have been deemed too dangerous to allow unrestricted space travel," Rhett interrupted. "We have documented 17 instances of human ships responding with force when challenged by Council patrols. Those ships were defending themselves against pirates." Walker's voice rose slightly. "Pirates that we later proved were being paid by Council members." Rhett's expression remained unchanged. "The Council's decision is final. We do this for the greater good of galactic peace." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the command center in tense silence. Walker turned to face his crew, noting their worried expressions. They all knew what this meant. Earth's economy had become dependent on interstellar trade. A blockade would cause global chaos. Over the next few days, Walker watched helplessly as the Council's plan unfolded. Earth's governments tried everything: diplomatic appeals, trade negotiations, even offering to accept Council oversight of their military operations. Nothing worked. The effects were immediate and devastating. The global stock markets crashed within hours of the blockade. Factories that relied on off-world materials shut down. Millions lost their jobs. Food prices soared as Earth's agricultural systems, enhanced by alien technology, began to fail without crucial supplies. 1 week into the blockade, Walker sat in an emergency meeting with Earth's remaining military leaders. The holographic projections of generals and admirals from different nations filled the secure underground chamber. "We can't fight them," General Roberts said, his hologram flickering slightly. "Their ships outnumber ours 20-1, and their technology is centuries ahead of ours. So we just surrender?" asked Admiral Chen. "Accept being prisoners on our own planet." Walker listened to the arguing voices, his mind racing through possibilities. Something about this situation didn't add up. The Council's actions were too extreme, too well orchestrated. They weren't just trying to contain Earth. They were trying to break it. As he left the meeting, Walker's secure comm unit buzzed. The message was from Dr. Emma Reed at the Quantum Research Division. "Found something interesting in the neural scans. Humans are different. Come immediately." Walker looked up at the ceiling, knowing that somewhere above the layers of rock and steel, Council ships continued their endless patrol. They thought they had humanity trapped and helpless. But if there was one thing Walker had learned in his years of service, it was that humans were at their most dangerous when backed into a corner. The Council thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they were about to learn a harsh lesson about human nature. As he headed toward the research division, Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Council had made 3 critical mistakes. They had united Earth's fractious nations against a common enemy. They had given humans access to advanced technology before revealing their true intentions. And most importantly, they had made humanity desperate. The blockade of Earth had begun, but it wouldn't end the way the Council expected. Not by a long shot. Dr. Emma Reed's underground laboratory hummed with energy as Admiral Walker stepped through the heavy security doors. The room was filled with rows of quantum computers, their blue lights pulsing in an odd rhythm. What caught his attention, though, was the large holographic display showing human brain scans alongside alien neural patterns. "Look at this," Dr. Reed said without looking up. She was a short woman with graying hair tied back in a messy bun, her lab coat wrinkled from too many hours of work. "We've been studying the Council's neural technology all wrong." Walker moved closer to the display. "What do you mean?" "The Council gave us their quantum computers years ago, thinking we could never fully use them." Reed pointed to the brain scans. "See these patterns? Human brains form quantum connections that alien minds can't. We're not just different, we're better at this than they are." She pressed a button, and the hologram changed to show a simulation. "Watch this. When aliens use quantum systems, they need AI to handle most of the processing. But humans..." She touched another control, and the display lit up with intricate patterns. "We can connect directly. No AI needed." Walker's eyes widened as he understood. "You're saying we can control their technology better than they can?" "Much better." Reed smiled. "I've already built a prototype. Tom, come show the Admiral." Lieutenant Tom Harris, who had followed Walker from the command center, stepped forward. He sat in what looked like a modified pilot's chair, and Reed placed a small device behind his ear. "Watch the displays," Reed said. The quantum computers around them suddenly surged with activity. On a nearby screen, complex calculations solved themselves at impossible speeds. A small drone in the corner of the room lifted off and performed perfect maneuvers, moving faster than any human pilot could control manually. "This is just one person," Reed explained. "Imagine an entire crew working together through the quantum network. We could operate ships in ways the Council never dreamed possible." Walker watched as Harris conducted 3 different simulated space battles simultaneously, his mind connected directly to the system. The young lieutenant's eyes were closed, but his fingers moved slightly, like a pianist playing an invisible instrument. "How soon can we implement this?" Walker asked. "That's the best part," Reed replied. "We already have everything we need. The Council gave us the base technology years ago. They just didn't know what we could do with it." Over the next few weeks, Earth's remaining ships were secretly modified with the new quantum integration systems. They worked in underground bases and underwater facilities, hidden from the Council's watchful eyes. Every test showed the same results. Human pilots consistently outperformed the Council's best AI systems. The breakthrough came when Reed discovered how to link multiple crew members together through the quantum network. The resulting neural mesh allowed entire ships to be operated as if they were extensions of the crew's own bodies. Response times dropped to nearly zero. Combat simulations showed that one Earth ship with the new system could outmaneuver 5 Council vessels. "The only problem," Reed explained during a secret military briefing, "is that we can't build new ships under the blockade. We'll have to work with what we have." General Roberts nodded. "How many ships can we upgrade?" "With our current resources, about 50. Reed projected the numbers onto the briefing room screen. "But those 50 ships will be more capable than anything the Council has ever seen." Walker studied the data. Their fleet would still be massively outnumbered, but with this advantage. "How long until we're ready?" 2 more weeks to complete the upgrades. Then we'll need another week to train the crews with the new systems." Walker stood up, his decision made. "Do it, and maintain absolute secrecy. As far as the Council is concerned, we're still a defeated planet trying to survive their blockade." As he left the briefing room, Walker received reports from around the world. The Council's blockade was tightening. Food riots had broken out in several cities. The global economy was in shambles. But now, for the first time since the quarantine began, Earth had hope. In labs and bases hidden from alien sensors, Humanity prepared its response. The Council thought they had caged a primitive species. They were about to discover they had cornered something far more dangerous. Humans with nothing left to lose and the means to fight back. Captain Michael Stone stood in the massive underwater hangar, watching as workers modified another Earth ship with the new quantum systems. The facility, hidden 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, was one of humanity's last secrets from the Council's watchful eyes. "How's the stealth coding coming along?" he asked the chief engineer, Bill Morris, who was checking readings on his tablet. "Better than we hoped," Morris replied, running his hand along the ship's dark hull. "The new material absorbs 99.9% of scan frequencies. To the Council's sensors, these ships might as well be ghosts." Operation Ghost, as they had named it, was proceeding ahead of schedule. On the surface, Earth's governments publicly showed signs of breaking under the blockade. They made weak protests to the Council, begged for mercy, and acted exactly like a defeated civilization should. But underground, underwater, and hidden in mountain bases, humanity prepared for war. Stone walked through the hangar's control room, where technicians monitored the Council's patrol patterns. The alien ships had become predictable in their arrogance. They followed the same routes, used the same scan patterns, never expecting their prisoners to have any fight left in them. "Status report," Stone called out to the room. "Ship modifications are at 85% completion," reported Lisa Green from her station. "Crew training is exceeding expectations. The neural links are working better than anyone predicted." Stone nodded, remembering his own experience with the quantum integration system. The first time he had linked with a ship, it had felt like gaining a new body. Every sensor, every weapon, every system became an extension of his own nervous system. It was intoxicating. A warning light flashed on one of the monitors. "Council patrol approaching," announced Tom Harris, who had been transferred to the underwater base. "They're doing another deep-sea scan." Everyone fell silent as the dots representing Council ships moved across the big screen. The base's stealth systems activated automatically, masking all energy signatures. They had practiced this dozens of times, but every real encounter brought fresh tension. The dots passed overhead slowly. Minutes ticked by. Finally, Harris spoke again. "They're moving on." No sign they detected anything. Stone released the breath he'd been holding. Every successful deception brought them closer to their goal. He moved to the training area, where crews were practicing with the neural interfaces. In one simulator, a team of 5 pilots moved their ship through a virtual asteroid field at impossible speeds. Their minds were linked through the quantum network, working together as a single unit. Another crew practiced combat maneuvers, their simulated ship dancing between enemy fire like a leaf in the wind. "Looking good," said Dr. Reed, who had come to observe the training. "The neural fusion is stable, and response times are getting better every day." "How are they handling the psychological effects?" Stone asked, concerned about the strain of linking minds. "Better than expected. Humans seem naturally adapted to this kind of mental connection. It's almost as if our brains were made for it." A message flashed on Stone's secure tablet. It was from Admiral Walker. "Council growing complacent. Patrol patterns showing larger gaps. Proceed to Phase 2. Phase 2 meant beginning to move their modified ships into position. They would hide in asteroid fields, behind moons, and in the debris clouds that littered the solar system. Each ship would wait, silent and invisible, until the signal came. Stone turned to his crew. "All right, people, time to start the real work. I want the first group of ships ready to move in 6 hours." Teams sprang into action. In the hangar, the massive doors at the end of the underwater tunnel began to open. The first of Earth's ghost ships would soon slip out into the dark waters and then up into space. As Stone watched the preparations, he thought about the Council's arrogance. They believed they had humanity safely caged, reduced to begging for scraps through the blockade. They never considered that every desperate message, every plea for mercy, was buying time. time that humanity had used well. Soon, the Council would learn the cost of underestimating Earth. But for now, in bases hidden across the planet, humanity's revenge was taking shape in silence, invisible to the overconfident eyes that watched from above. The ghost ships were almost ready. The crews were trained. The trap was nearly set. All they needed now was the right moment to strike. The Council's annual assembly was a grand display of alien power. 2,000 ships surrounded the massive space station, where representatives from 50 alien races gathered to discuss galactic politics. None of them noticed the slight shimmer in space as Earth's ghost ships moved into position. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Spirit of Earth, hidden behind a small moon. His neural link connected him to both his ship and the entire human fleet. Through the quantum network, he felt the presence of every captain, every crew member, all waiting for his signal. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Harris announced from his station. "Council ships are exactly where we predicted." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Send the signal. Operation Ghost begins now." Across the solar system, 50 Earth ships appeared simultaneously, as if materializing from nothing. The Council's sensors registered their presence just seconds before the attack began. On the Council space station, High Counselor Rhett was in the middle of a speech about Earth's successful containment when the emergency alarms began blaring. His 6 eyes widened as the tactical display showed human ships appearing at every major Council outpost across 3 sectors of space. "Impossible," he whispered. Their ships were all accounted for. They were under blockade. Back on the Spirit of Earth, Walker directed the assault through his neural link. The quantum-enhanced ships moved with impossible grace, their human crews working in perfect unity. Council ships, relying on AI combat systems, couldn't match their speed or precision. "Target their command and control systems only," Walker ordered through the neural net. "No unnecessary casualties. Show them our strength, but prove we're better than they are." The Earth ships danced through space like deadly ballet dancers. Their new stealth coating absorbed enemy fire, while their enhanced weapons struck with surgical precision. Council ships found their engines disabled, weapons systems shut down, but life support untouched. Captain Stone, commanding a wing of 5 ships, led the assault on the Council's primary defense fleet. His neural link squadron moved as one organism, predicting and countering every Council tactic. "They're still using standard combat protocols," Stone transmitted to the fleet. "They haven't adapted to our new capabilities." Through the quantum network, Walker watched as decades of Council military superiority crumbled in minutes. Their rigid tactics, over-reliance on AI, and arrogant assumption of victory proved to be their undoing. On the Council station, panic spread as reports flooded in. Earth ships had appeared at 20 different locations simultaneously. The Council's mighty defense fleet was being systematically disabled by vessels that moved like nothing they had ever seen. "How are they doing this?" demanded Rhett, watching another squadron of Council ships go dark. "Their neural patterns, they're all connected somehow. This is impossible." The Spirit of Earth finally decloaked directly in front of the Council station's main viewport. Its dark hull seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars, making it look like a piece of space had come alive. Walker opened a channel to the station. His image appeared on every screen in the Council chamber. "This is Admiral James Walker of Earth." His voice rang through the station. "Your blockade of Earth is now over. Your ships have been disabled. Your defense networks are under our control." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We could have destroyed your ships. We could have killed your crews. Instead, we chose to show restraint, something you never showed us." The Council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from different species argued and pointed fingers. Their perfect system of control was falling apart. "You will remove all remaining ships from Earth space immediately," Walker continued. "Then we will discuss new terms for our relationship with the Council." Through his neural link, Walker felt the satisfaction of every human crew member. Months of preparation, of hiding, of practicing in secret, had paid off. Humanity had not just broken free. They had done it without becoming the monsters the Council had labeled them as. "Sir," Harris reported, "Council ships are powering down weapons. They're requesting terms." Walker nodded. "Tell our fleet to maintain position, but do not fire unless fired upon. The Council needs time to understand their new reality." As he looked out at the Council station, Walker thought about how wrong they had been about humanity. They had seen humanity's capacity for violence and assumed it was their defining trait. They had never understood that humans' greatest strength wasn't their ability to fight. It was their ability to show mercy even in victory. The first strike was complete. Now came the harder part, reshaping the galaxy into something better than what the Council had built. Dr. Emma Reed stood before the stunned Council representatives in their Grand Assembly Hall. The massive chamber, with its towering crystal walls and floating platforms, had never been so quiet. Every alien eye was fixed on the simple hologram she had just activated. "As you can see," she said, pointing to the display showing neural patterns, "we didn't just break your blockade. We understood your entire defense network better than you do." The hologram shifted, showing the complex quantum calculations that powered Council technology. Beside them, human neural patterns danced in perfect synchronization with the quantum waves. "Impossible," muttered a tall, crystalline being from the Science Council. "Our systems were designed to require AI interface. Organic minds cannot process quantum data directly." Reed smiled. "Human minds can. In fact, we do it better than your AIs." She pressed a button, and the hologram expanded to show battle footage from their attack. Earth ships moved with impossible precision, their human crews linked through the quantum network. "While you were busy blockading us," she continued, "we weren't just sitting idle. We were learning. Your quantum computers, which you so generously shared during our early trade agreements, showed us something fascinating about human neural patterns." In the front row, High Counselor Rhett's 6 eyes blinked rapidly in distress. "You're saying you can control our technology without AI assistance?" "Control it? We mastered it." Reed gestured, and more data filled the air around them. "Your AI systems spend 40% of their processing power just managing quantum uncertainty. Human minds do it naturally. We don't fight the quantum realm. We flow with it." Through encrypted channels, reports were already coming in. Council species across the galaxy were trying to replicate Earth's achievement. Every attempt failed. Their neural patterns simply couldn't form the necessary quantum connections. Admiral Walker stepped forward, his dress uniform sharp against the ornate alien architecture. "Dr. Reed's discovery is only part of the story. While your ships blockaded Earth, we decoded your entire defense network. We know every weakness, every backdoor, every flaw in your systems." The Council chamber erupted in panicked whispers. Representatives from military powers demanded immediate action. Others called for negotiations. A few simply sat in shocked silence. "But how?" demanded a reptilian general, his scales flushing with anger. "Our encryption was perfect." Reed shook her head. "Perfect for AI systems and alien minds, but human quantum integration sees patterns differently. What you thought was unbreakable encryption, we saw as simple rhythms." She brought up another display, this one showing the Council's defense network. Red points lit up across the galactic map, showing every compromised system, every vulnerable station. There were thousands. "Your entire military infrastructure," Walker added, "relies on technology that humans can now control better than you can. This isn't just about breaking a blockade. This is about showing you how wrong you were about humanity." Tom Harris, now promoted to commander, approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from 14 more Council battle groups. They've seen the neural pattern data. They know they can't fight us." Walker nodded, then turned back to the Council. "We could have destroyed your ships. We could have torn down every defense you built. Instead, we disabled your weapons and saved your crews. Remember that when you think about humanity's aggressive tendencies. Reed took control of the presentation again. We're willing to share some of our discoveries, not the military applications, but the medical and scientific breakthroughs. Human quantum integration has applications far beyond warfare. The council chamber had fallen silent again, but now it was a different kind of silence. Not the silence of shock, but of realization. They had tried to cage a species that was, in some ways, far more advanced than they had imagined. The blockade ends today, Walker announced. Earth will take its place among the galactic community, not as a prisoner, but as a power that you must respect. As Reed packed up her presentation materials, she noticed something interesting. The fear in the alien representative's eyes was fading, being replaced by something else. Curiosity. They had just learned that their understanding of neural science, of quantum physics, even of consciousness itself, was incomplete. The Council had wanted to contain humanity. Instead, they had forced humanity to evolve, to innovate, to surpass them. Now they would have to live with the consequences of their mistake. The age of Council dominance was over. The age of human quantum integration had begun. Captain Michael Stone walked through the massive archives beneath the Council's main station, his footsteps echoing in the ancient chamber. Behind him, a team of human data specialists worked to decode millions of hidden files. Each new discovery made his blood boil with anger. "Admiral, you need to see this," he called over the quantum link to Walker. "We found their secret records. Everything they've done to younger species. It's all here." The holographic image of Admiral Walker appeared beside him. Through their neural connection, Stone could feel the Admiral's growing fury as he read the files. "They didn't just blockade Earth," Walker said quietly. "They've been doing this for thousands of years, identifying promising species, sharing technology, then finding excuses to contain them." The archives told a dark story. The Council hadn't just been maintaining peace. They had been systematically suppressing any species that might challenge their power. Earth wasn't their first victim. They had done this dozens of times before. In the Council's main chamber above, Dr. Reed was presenting the evidence to the gathered representatives. Her voice carried across the silent room as she displayed document after document on the massive screens. Species 2247. Quarantined for aggressive tendencies. Species 3981. Blocked from space travel for cultural instability. Species 4209. Contained for potential threat to galactic peace. She paused, letting each example sink in. The pattern is clear. Any race that showed too much promise was labeled a threat. High Counselor Rhett, now under guard, could only watch as centuries of careful manipulation were exposed. The other council members looked on in horror as their own secret histories were revealed. "Earth demands the immediate dissolution of the council's authority," Walker announced, his hologram now standing in the center of the chamber. "Your right to govern ended the moment we discovered your true nature." Through the quantum network, human ships across the galaxy were already moving. But they weren't attacking. They were freeing other imprisoned species. Captain Stone led a fleet to the Centauri sector, where 3 different civilizations had been under blockade for centuries. "This is Captain Stone of Earth," he transmitted to the surprised planetary defenders. "We're here to end your quarantine. The Council's authority has been broken." Similar scenes played out across dozens of star systems. Species that had been labeled as dangerous or unstable discovered that their jailers had lost their power. Earth ships disabled the blockades, shared the truth about the Council, and offered friendship instead of control. In the Council archives, more teams of humans worked to decode the oldest records. They found evidence of civilizations that had been deliberately held back, of promising species whose growth had been stunted by Council interference. They were afraid, Dr. Reed explained to a group of newly freed representatives. Their own neural limitations meant they couldn't advance past certain technological barriers. When they found species who might be able to surpass them, they reacted with fear instead of hope. Walker established a temporary command center in the Council station. Reports flowed in through the quantum network, Council military units surrendering, imprisoned species celebrating their freedom, centuries-old blockades falling. "Sir," Commander Harris reported, "we're receiving messages from 17 different species. They're requesting to join what they're calling the Earth Alliance." Walker shook his head. "Tell them we don't want an alliance based on power. We want cooperation based on respect. Every species deserves the chance to reach its full potential." The human quantum network expanded, now including ships and crews from newly freed civilizations. Many of these species, they discovered, had neural patterns that were different from both humans and Council races. Each brought their own unique strengths to the emerging partnership. As the day ended, Stone stood at a viewport, watching ships from a dozen different species moving freely through space. The Council's perfect, controlled galaxy was transforming into something more chaotic, but also more alive. "Hard to believe it was just a few months ago that we were the ones under blockade," Harris said, joining him at the window. Stone nodded. "They thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they forced us to become something better than they ever imagined." Through the quantum link, he could feel the hope and determination of thousands of human crew members across the galaxy. They had gained their revenge, not through destruction, but by building something new from the ashes of the Council's failed system. The age of suppression was over. The age of true cooperation was about to begin. 6 months after the fall of the Council, the Great Assembly Hall looked very different. Where once only Council members sat in their assigned hierarchies, now representatives from over 50 species mingled freely. Among them walked Admiral Walker, observing the success of what many now called the Earth Revolution. "The latest reports from the outer systems, sir," Commander Harris said, handing him a data tablet. Through their neural link, Walker could feel his officer's pride at the numbers. The statistics told an impressive story. Trade between formerly blocked species had increased by 300%. Scientific breakthroughs were happening weekly as different races shared their knowledge freely. The galaxy was flourishing without the Council's restrictive control. Admiral Walker called out a voice. It was Ambassador Krell, from one of the first species they had freed. Like many of his kind, he had patterns of light flowing under his transparent skin. "The quantum integration trials were successful. Our people can connect to the network in our own unique way." This had been Dr. Reed's greatest discovery after the Council's fall. Every species had its own special way of interfacing with quantum systems. The Council's mistake had been trying to force everyone to use the same method. Earth's success came from letting each race find its own path. In her new laboratory at the center of the station, Dr. Reed worked with scientists from 20 different species. The old Council chamber had been converted into the largest research facility in known space. "The breakthroughs keep coming," she told Walker as he visited her lab. "The Lumini can see quantum patterns directly. The Vor can manipulate quantum fields with their thoughts. Every species brings something new to our understanding." On the massive view screens around the station, ships from dozens of civilizations moved freely through space. The rigid patrol patterns of the Council era were gone, replaced by the organic flow of free trade and exploration. Captain Stone, now leading the Combined Fleet's training program, worked with crews from all species. The key was stopping trying to make everyone fight the same way. He explained to a group of new cadets, "Each species has its strengths. We just help them find them." The former High Counselor Rhett, now serving as an advisor to help undo the damage of the old system, watched the changes with all 6 of his eyes. "We were so wrong," he admitted to Walker. "We thought control meant stability. You showed us that true stability comes from freedom." Walker nodded. "The irony is, by trying to cage humanity, you forced us to evolve faster than we ever would have on our own. Your blockade made us find strengths we didn't know we had." Earth itself had changed dramatically. With the blockade lifted and new trade routes established, the planet had recovered and was thriving. But more importantly, Earth had gained something precious. the respect of the galaxy. In the New Alliance headquarters, built where the Council's high chamber once stood, Walker looked at the memorial wall. It listed all the species that had been imprisoned over the centuries, and the dates of their liberation. Earth's name was there, not at the beginning, but at the turning point, the moment when everything changed. "Sir," Harris called out, "the first graduation ceremony is about to begin." Walker smiled. The Academy, teaching everything from quantum integration to xenobiology, was perhaps their greatest achievement. Young beings from hundreds of worlds came to learn, each bringing their own perspectives and abilities. As he watched the ceremony, Walker saw the future taking shape. Former Council races worked alongside the species they once imprisoned. New discoveries were made daily as different minds approached old problems in new ways. The galaxy had woken up from a long sleep of enforced order. "To think," Dr. Reed said, standing beside him, "they thought they were containing a threat when they blockaded Earth. Instead, they were creating exactly what the galaxy needed, a force strong enough to break their control, but wise enough not to replace it with more control." Through the quantum network, Walker could feel the connections spanning the galaxy. Not just humans now, but thousands of species, each adding their own unique pattern to the greater whole. The network had become a symbol of what was possible when diversity was celebrated instead of feared. The Council's greatest mistake, Walker reflected, wasn't underestimating humanity's strength. It was underestimating humanity's capacity for forgiveness and growth. As the ceremony ended, ships from 50 different worlds performed a synchronized flight display outside the station's windows. Each moved in its own style, yet all worked together in perfect harmony, a living symbol of the new age that Earth had helped create. The revenge that had started as a desire for freedom had transformed into something far greater, a revolution of hope that had changed the galaxy forever.